Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell has confirmed that government has not yet reached a decision regarding the U.S. government's request to temporarily install radar equipment and technical personnel at Maurice Bishop International Airport. During his appearance on DM with PM last evening, Mitchell explained that several logistical considerations, reviews, and consultations still need to be completed before any decision can be made.
Nothing much has changed since the Ministry of Foreign Affairs indicated that we were considering the request. We are still doing so. It is a technical matter that requires a lot of technical people to provide us with guidance on what it is we've been asked to accommodate.
He also.
In this case, the request that is provided us has a certain context. It is a request from the U.S. Southern Command from a military perspective. Grenada has no military. So it is not something just right off the bat that we're familiar with. So that immediately makes it a different type of request, which is why we have to consider the pros and cons of whether we agree or not. And that is essentially what we are dealing with. Important for me to emphasize that Grenada has excellent relations with each and every country in the Western Hemisphere. There is no country that Grenada doesn't have diplomatic relations with or has any challenges with. When it comes to partnership, from time to time we'll have difference of views, from time to time we may even have falling outs on a particular issue or a particular matter. That's the nature of diplomacy, that's the nature of international relations. You get over them and you move on. So
Prime Minister Mitchell also voiced support for open public discussion and participation in the democratic process on this issue.
I'm extremely happy that the public has had extensive debating. They've shared their views, they've spoken about it. People have made their comments, people have sent their suggestions, people have made their recommendations. It shows the vitality of our democracy. It shows that freedom of speech is alive and well in Grenada. And it shows that we have a government that clearly understands that, because we made no decision. If we had made a decision without informing the public, with the discussions with the public, it would have been a different thing. So for me, I have no issue with the raging debate that's taking place. The public view will obviously weigh heavily. And we still have to continue the process of the legal and technical engagement. And if we even get to that point, we will then consult with the public as to what is the appropriate decision to be made.
The Prime Minister was originally scheduled to address the nation on the U.S. request during a parliamentary session on Friday. However, the sit-in has been postponed to next Tuesday, and the PM is now expected to make the address on the new date. Rena Pierre-Thomas, GBN News.
Hey guys, welcome back to Carib 21 Network. So today is the 25th of October, and it is the 43rd year since the invasion of the now Maurice Bishop International Airport and by the American government. And yes, and it is so, I don't know if ironic is the word, but it is just so crazy to see that this month, when we are remembering Maurice Bishop, because of the assassination of Maurice Bishop and the invasion of Grenada, now we are dealing with this situation with the American government trying to install military assets at the airport. So this has been a hot button topic for the entire week. This is what most people in the Caribbean have been talking about so far this week, with what is going on in the Caribbean with what we call the so-called war on drugs in the Caribbean, and the position that the young leader in Dickon Mitchell is now faced with. And as I said, I believe that he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it is just my opinion, but I think this is more of regime change, not only in Venezuela, but across the Caribbean, with leaders that historically associate themselves with, like, Cuba and Venezuela, and leaders that have more of a socialist type of mandate for their country. And I've said it in several videos so far. The first time I saw Dickon Mitchell, he reminded me of Maurice Bishop. And Maurice Bishop is one of my heroes. I believe that he's one of the greatest leaders the world have ever seen in the short space of time that he was able to lead his country. So I think that this is what this is all about. I don't think it is just not making any sense to me. I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same way, but I've said it this week so far that Trinidad and Tobago is right there. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is ready and willing to dance to Donald Trump's music. So Trinidad has two international airports that they could have whatever radar system installed in Trinidad and Tobago. And we know that Trinidad and Tobago at its closest point is 11 miles from Venezuela. And we know that Guyana is there, and Venezuela and Guyana, they have been in conflict over the Essequibo region. So Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana would be perfect for that radar system. And I just don't see how Grenada got into that picture. And one of the things that is very suspicious also is that it was revealed this week also that this request was made back in August, and that is something that we're learning this week now. So it's very interesting time for the Caribbean, and I believe one of the reasons why I believe that this is pretty much like, you know, dividing the Caribbean and probably in a way trying to get rid of Dickon Mitchell also is because we know how the CIA operates, and even Donald Trump is like the first president in the history of America that is coming out now and telling you that the CIA, they're going to be on covert operation in Venezuela. Normally we hear that after the operation. So knowing how the Americans work, knowing how the CIA operates, I believe that if the aim was really to have that installed at the Maurice Bishop International Airport, I believe that the Americans would have been able to go into Grenada and to talk to the Prime Minister and to get that thing installed without anyone knowing, without this coming out to the public. So the fact that this is out there in the public, I think that this was the plan from day one. So I don't know, but I just wanted to come on tonight because this has been a trending topic all week. And I know people have difference in opinion on this topic. So I just wanted to come on, and if anyone wanted to call, the WhatsApp number is on the screen. You can feel free to chime in this conversation. What would you advise Dickon Mitchell about? What should be his next step? And we know we spoke about the Eastern Caribbean, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, that they met, and we also spoke about Ralph Gonsalves and Ralph Gonsalves' opinion on this. And you know, Ralph is one of the strongest voice in the Caribbean. He's someone that pretty much is at a stage in his political career now that he really don't really care much. And he's saying that, look, whatever Dickon Mitchell decision is, I'm going to support him because I know it is not an easy decision. And whatever decision he makes, I believe that the country is going to be split. It could be 50-50, 60-40, 70-30. I believe that the country is going to split. There are people that's going to say, look, do not do this, no matter what it's going to cost the country. You cannot have this radar system at our airport. And then you're going to have others that would say, look, if this is going to keep us from being feeling the wrath of America, like an embargo or anything like that, then you're going to have to go ahead and do it. So he's in a tough spot. And one of the things I said earlier, the video that I released earlier, is that I believe that maybe it's best to do a referendum. The only problem with a referendum is that referendum might take a lot of time to put together. It could be expensive. Normally we see referendum taking place like close to an election when all of the money is already in motion to spend. But for a decision like this, I don't think we've ever seen a referendum for that you'd have to come up like, that would almost be like an emergency referendum. But I just believe that I am with Ralph Gonsalves on this. Whatever decision the Prime Minister makes, I'm going to have to support him on this because it, as I said, it's not easy. It is not easy. Like Maurice Bishop is one, as I said, to me, is one of the greatest leader the world has ever seen. I also have a lot of respect for Michael Manley, the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, what also one of the greatest prime ministers. And in 1975, when Michael Manley had to stand up to the American government, and there was this famous speech that he made that, you know, we will leave this world walking on our feet and not on our knees. We're not bowing down to the Americans. And the prime minister paid dearly for that, and Jamaica paid dearly. And I also mentioned that in the video that I did earlier today that Jamaica gained independence in 1962. The prime minister, Michael Manley, was prime minister between 70 and close to 1980. And he was able to accomplish a lot. And because of the pressure that the American put on him, and even it was revealed by CIA whistleblowers that the CIA came into Jamaica and they decided that they are going to make the Jamaican economy scream. That was the words that they used. And we saw Jamaica from 1962 to about 1972 like a very peaceful country, a country without illegal firearms or anything like that. And right before the 1980 election, all of a sudden the country was just flooded with illegal firearm. And that 1980 election became the bloodiest election in the history of Jamaica. And it was revealed after that the CIA was responsible for that, to destabilize the country because they did not want a socialist leader. They did not want someone that was so closely affiliated with Fidel Castro. And we saw the same thing with Maurice Bishop. So, as I said, it's not an easy decision that the Prime Minister, it's announced that he's going to be making his decision on Tuesday. And I believe that, you know, we just have to pray for the best. And whatever decision he makes, like, honestly, like, I'm going to have to support him because even though I see a lot of people out there saying that, you know, no is no, and if the Prime Minister, you know, bow to the Americans, we're going to vote him out, and all of that good stuff. But as a child growing up in Jamaica in the 80s, I remember food being rationed in Jamaica because the American government decided that they're not going to fulfill any IMF agreement with Jamaica. There was a sanction on Jamaica, and people who really follow geopolitics know how this thing work. Whenever America decide to sanction a country, then all the other European countries, they fall in line, and Canada fall in line also. So when you look at Cuba, when you look at Haiti and Venezuela and how they are able to cripple those economy, that's because an American sanction, an American embargo is not just saying that, okay, it's one thing that you can't deal with America. America is not going to do business with you. But America is advising the European Union that they are not doing business with you also. They are advising Canada that they're not doing business with you also. And then you're only left with China and Russia, who, because of the powerhouse that they are, they can fight through and do business. And we see that is what happened with Cuba. That's why Cuba is in the state that it's in. That's why Haiti is in the state that it's in. And one of the things I would caution people of Grenada is that sometimes there are people that standing with you, people from other Caribbean islands, they're standing with you before the fight starts, and as soon as the fight starts, they're gone. They're not beside you. Like, you know, I remember Jamaicans like traveling in the 90s, in the early 2000s, even in the Caribbean. As a Jamaican, you're going to Trinidad and Tobago, you're going to anywhere in the Caribbean, and Jamaicans were looked at in such a disdain because of what was going on there, that a lot of people did not want it in their country. We see the same thing happening to Haiti right now, where even the Caribbean, you know, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, people are turning their back on the people of Haiti, our brothers and sisters in Haiti, as if what is happening in Haiti, like they did it to themselves and not the superpowers, like destabilizing their economy. You know, we see the same thing with Cuba. So just a caution, like do not, the Prime Minister of Grenada, Mr. Dickon Mitchell, is not the enemy. Like he's in a difficult position. Whatever position he makes, he's in a difficult position. And I would also urge the opposition party not to try and gain political mileage from this, because that would be the most disgusting thing any opposition leader could do. If you see your country in a position what we're looking at and seeing Grenada in right now, and if you're the opposition and you try to capitalize on this because you want to be in office and you want to throw the Prime Minister under the bus, that would be like a disgusting, despicable act for any opposition leader if that is what they're thinking. This is the time when the opposition should meet with the Prime Minister and say, look, what can we do? What's the best decision? And whatever decision you make, we're going to stand together. We're all Grenadians and we're going to fight this together. And that is the approach that I'm hoping that the opposition will take. But, you know, knowing politics and sometimes people are greedy for power, you know, anything is possible. So I'm going to play what the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, what he said in a recent meeting. And as I said, I support what the Prime Minister is saying, that, look, whatever decision that Dickon Mitchell makes, that he's backing him, and all the other leaders in the OECS, they are going to back him.
We had a meeting, and a meeting at the OECS, and then there was a CARICOM meeting, and this matter was discussed. A matter of this great sensitivity, I wouldn't want to say what advice we gave to Dickon, or what issues we discussed. But I could tell you what I said then and what I could say publicly is that whatever decision he makes, I will support him, because he'd have a rational basis on which to make whatever decision he makes. Clearly, this is a complicated issue. If he says no, the United States of America will find somewhere else to put it. They can put it by me? Oh, I see. Well, they haven't raised that with me. They can put it on a platform in the sea. They have satellites. You know, the argument, as I understand it, that's the best place to put it. My own view is that they want to put it nearby to Venezuela to put some pressure on Maduro. But if I could figure that out, you don't think Maduro could figure that out too? So the effect of the pressure would be lost. That is the intention. Look, take a situation objectively. You can't lift up Grenada and carry it to Vladivostok or the mouth of the Amur River. It's where it is. 20-something% of the GDP of Grenada is in relation to one medical school. Most of the persons come from America. The airlines which bring passengers come mainly out of the United States of America. There are all kinds of pressures which could be brought. And then on the other side, There are principles of non-intervention, non-interference. This is a zone of peace. So I am sure it's not nuclear physics that any prime minister confronted with a request from the United States of America that they will balance and consider all various factors. I can't tell Dickon what to say. I can't tell the Grenadian people what to say. But whatever decision they take, I will support them because it would be a decision which is difficult, problematic, and it's a judgment. And they would look, where do they see at this particular point in time the interest of Grenada. There are certain persons who may give advice one way or the other, but at the end of the day, it's Dickon, having listened to the advice of his people, listened to his cabinet, consider all matters, that he will make his determination. And so I will not adopt a posture other than to support my brother in whatever he decides to do. So, but I wouldn't say to you what advice I will give him if he asks me. And that is the way I will put the issue. I will be in his corner.
I don't know if any other prime minister wants to comment on it.
No, we share the same sentiment.
Antigua's prime minister said straight up no. So the three prime ministers said straight up no if that request is made of them.
No,
Well, that's in relation to Antigua.
yeah, Antigua, as I understand it, they asked Antigua.
Yeah. So,
And I support Antigua in saying no. I support my colleagues in a decision which they take, which they themselves assess the national interest of their own country at that particular point in time. It's as simple and straightforward as that.
The issue of Grenada's sovereignty and dignity.
Okay, so that was the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez. So if you're watching now, you don't want to call on the WhatsApp, just leave in the comment section, what do you think that the Prime Minister should do? Do you think that he should go ahead and accept the request from the Americans, or do you think that he should say no, and whatever the Americans, whatever the outcome, then Grenadians will just deal with it? Leave that in the comment section. And as I said, I don't think that this is a legitimate request. There's just something telling me that this is not a legitimate request. And since the beginning of this request, I've been saying that, because when we look at, since the Trump administration came into office and we saw the uproar with the Iran nuclear situation, we saw the Trump administration gave the go-ahead to go and bomb Iran nuclear site. From America to Iran, if you're taking a flight, you're to go to Iran, you're probably thinking about 24 to 30 hours to fly on a commercial flight there. And America had the capability to fly bombers across the world to go and take out those nuclear plants. I believe that America has the capability to steal from America or to launch whatever aircraft from those big ships that they have in the Caribbean Sea, and they can do whatever they want. So I just don't see how Grenada, that request for Grenada is really legitimate. And what is not lost on me is that the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell, they have like a good relationship with the Venezuelan people, with the Venezuelan government. As a matter of fact, Dickon Mitchell offered up himself a few weeks ago to go and mediate on behalf of CARICOM with Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago. He went to Trinidad and Tobago and he met with the Prime Minister and he offered up himself as a mediator. Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Ralph Gonsalves, he is one of the elder statesmen in CARICOM. And when we saw the tension, the increasing of the tension last year between Venezuela and Guyana, we saw the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, we saw them activate the Argyle Declaration. And the Argyle Declaration was an agreement that was met, that was signed by Venezuela, Guyana, and as I said, Ralph Gonsalves was the mediator, was the one in the middle. And that was for Venezuela and Guyana to solve their issue with the Essequibo region to use diplomacy. So they signed that agreement that, look, we are going to use diplomacy to solve this agreement. It's not going to get to a level where we're going to start, bringing the army in the middle of it. So it's something similar to the Caribbean Zone of Peace Agreement, that Argyle Declaration. So we see people there, we see mediators there, and as I stated earlier, that Trinidad and Tobago is a friend to the American government. They are ready to do whatever the American government asks. So Trinidad and Tobago would be a perfect place in either of the airports, whether in Trinidad or in Tobago. They could have put it in any of those airports. They could have put it in Guyana. It's also no secret that the Jamaican government and the American government, that those are the so-called puppet government, what people like to call in the Caribbean, to say that Trinidad, Guyana, and Jamaica, those are the governments that are ready to dance for the US. And they didn't ask those governments, unless they did, and it is a secret and nobody knows. But I just don't understand why they would ask Dickon Mitchell to do that. And I even stated last week that I would not be surprised if we hear that Barbados is going to be pulled into it, or St. Vincent and the Grenadines is going to be pulled into it. Because when you follow the politics, you know that not just Donald Trump, this is bigger than Donald Trump. That is what a lot of people don't know. When you follow geopolitics, you know that whatever American government there is, whether it's Obama, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's Donald Trump, they have a particular set of people in the Caribbean, in the region, that they love when they are in office. Any government in office that have any type of socialist agenda, America is not up to that. They do not want any socialist government. Once they hear like free healthcare, free education, free, the Americans don't like to hear that. The Americans are capitalists, and they want their capitalist agenda in the Caribbean. So when you look at Barbados, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, you look at St. Vincent, Ralph Gonsalves, they're considered like comrades. If the People's National Party in Jamaica was in power, the American government would not like that also. So this is just geopolitics, and I just believe that, look, this is just not about pretty much military assets or radar system at the airport. I think it's more than that. And the whole idea too that they want to build a prison, and that is the thing, like what people in the Caribbean need to understand. A lot of time we have the conversation and we talk about China and the Chinese coming in to do this and to do that. But the reality is that we have no history in the past 500 years. We have no history of any other group of people trying to colonize us than Europeans. There's no history of Chinese colonization. So when we see China coming to the Caribbean, we see them doing business. I've been watching this whole thing for a long time. I've never heard, unless it's something that passed me and I didn't hear, but I've never heard China going to anywhere in the Caribbean and offering to build prisons. And it is just so ironic that all of these European countries, that is the first thing that they want to help you to build prison. I know the British government offered Jamaica half of Jamaica to build a state-of-the-art prison, not like a hospital or another university, but prison. I know we are hearing that offer was made to build a prison in Grenada, and why would you need a prison in Grenada? Like the population is not that big. Places like Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, those islands, we're not accustomed to hearing crime and violence and all those things in those islands. So why do we need prison in them? So it is just, yeah, the time that we're living in. But as I said, the only thing I can say to people, because at the end of the day, people in the Caribbean, we're just, brothers and sisters in the Caribbean that just hope the best for the people of Grenada. But at the end of the day, we're on the outside looking in, and Grenadians, whatever decision that's going to be made, Grenadians are the ones that going to suffer if it's a bad decision, or if it's a good decision, then it's going to impact Grenadians, not Trinidadians, not Jamaicans, not Vincentian. So I believe that support the Prime Minister. I believe Dickon Mitchell is a good person. And I believe that even the president of Venezuela, Maduro, I believe that Maduro is smart enough to understand that, look, Dickon Mitchell or any of the prime ministers in CARICOM, they are not supporting this. The only person that is supporting this is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm sure that Dickon Mitchell would have the number for Maduro and could call Maduro at any time. I know Ralph Gonzalez have a good relationship with him, to call Maduro and say, you know what, if the Americans are pressuring us, because we don't know what's going on behind the scene. We don't know what the Americans, because I hear people talking about just negotiate with Trump. And when you hear people talk like that, you realize that, look, these people have no idea what they're talking about. America does not negotiate, especially with small countries. It's my way or the highway. They're not negotiating. So I can just imagine what they're saying in those meetings, what they're telling the Prime Minister that they can lose. Because remember, since even Trinidad, and that's why I don't understand why the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is dancing so much for the Trump administration, because every single Caribbean island, every single member of CARICOM have gotten worse since the past 6 months of this Trump administration. Every single Caribbean island, every single member of CARICOM have been slapped with a tariff, with a 10% or 15%. We had the Caribbean Basin Initiative is something that Ronald Reagan was the one that signed the Caribbean Basin Initiative, and he did that the same year that they invaded Grenada. I don't know if it was a gift because of the invasion of Grenada, but in 1983, Ronald Reagan signed the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which Caribbean islands that signed that agreement, they are able to export goods to the American market, tax-free, tariff-free, duty-free, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of, since 1983, Caribbean islands have been benefiting from this. And Donald Trump came in office, and 2 weeks after, that is just gone through the window. We saw the Cuban nursing program gone through the window. Just you name it, and Donald Trump has just come and just like scrap everything good that's been happening in the Caribbean. And now we see what is going on in the Caribbean Sea. And even though the mainstream media, traditional media is not talking about it, but now we're entering the winter tourism season. And we know places like Barbados, like St. Vincent is a new kid on the block in terms of tourism. And now we're hearing reports that like a lot of the crews, they are not going to come this side because of what is going on. Can you imagine a Royal Caribbean, going through the oceans of the Caribbean and got bombed by the American government saying that it's a fishing boat. You know, so it is just so it is just so ridiculous. And I pray to God that we don't get to a point where they really attack Venezuela, because as much as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is supporting this, I believe that the people of Trinidad and Tobago do not deserve a war with their next door neighbors. And I know a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago are supporting it a lot. Well, let me not say a lot. A lot of the Prime Minister's supporter is supporting it. Here's one one of my friends that I know support what is going on in between US and Venezuela. Yeah, so, but I don't think the people of Trinidad and Tobago deserve it. I think the people who are advocating for this war have no idea what they're advocating for, because a war with Venezuela, you know, Trinidad and Tobago is going to be impacted the most. You know, a lot of people from Trinidad say like, oh, like, why are you in our business? You're not Trini, like you're Jamaican or whatever. Leave our business alone. And yeah, like I'm Jamaican, like I'm nowhere close to Trinidad and Tobago. This is not going to impact me. But at the end of the day, I have friends, I've people that I really respect in Trinidad and Tobago. And I am a Caribbean national at the end of the day. And this is not going to be a good thing for Trinidad and Tobago. If anybody who support this think that Trinidad and Tobago is not going to suffer, people are talking about the immigration crisis in Trinidad right now. The immigration crisis in Trinidad right now is nothing compared to what it could be when or if the American attack Venezuela, because Venezuela, people of Venezuela, the government already said that they're going to fight to the end. And the government already warned that if Trinidad and Tobago help, Trinidad and Tobago is going to become a target. We saw reports coming out of Venezuela recently that they have 5,000 something like missile heads there that they're ready to use. And I don't know of the capability if they have strong enough weaponry that they can hit mainland America. But I know that they can with Trinidad and Tobago. Somebody's calling. Hello?
Right.
Good night.
Yes. You hear me well?
Yes,
I'm on the
yes.
program?
Yes, yes.
Yes, man. So I like your program. I've been watching the program for some time now. I recently subscribed to the channel, but I like the program. So your question is what would be your choice to the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, right?
Yes.
Well, to me, it's a straightforward no. Because yes, we know the ramifications.
Can I ask you a question?
And we know that. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you Jamaican?
Yes, man.
Okay.
Jamaican, man.
Were you around when Michael Manley was Prime Minister?
No, I was a child then, but I know about it. I was a child then. I was born in the 70s. I was a child when it occurred.
Okay, so you let me tell you why I don't think this is an easy no. We know the CIA whistleblowers. They came out. I think they came out in about 1989, and they stated what happened in Jamaica and the part that the CIA played in it, right?
Yes, I saw it on YouTube.
Right? Yeah, recently, because when the CIA do their operation, they seal their documents. So that document with what happened in Jamaica was released last year, I think. So the document, yeah, it's unclassified now, so it's there for anyone to read. So you remember the case? You heard about the case of the old folks' home that got burned down with 150, yes. Right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So if they can go through that length, I was young back then, right? I grew up in Seaview Gardens, and from from about 4 to about,
And I grew up in Washington Gardens.
okay, so from about age 4 to like 6 or so, like I didn't know that the bed was made to sleep on, right? Because we used to sleep under the bed. And every single house in that era used to have like bullet holes, like a strainer. And at the time, about 15% of Jamaicans, the wealthy Jamaicans, they pack up and they left and they went to Miami, they went to New York. The country, Jamaica, was suffering. It took over 30 years for Jamaica to recover because of Michael Manley standing up to the American government, different administration also at the time. And up to today, because Michael Manley is one of my favorite leaders, because he stood up and but up to today, there are a lot of Jamaicans that blame Michael Manley for Jamaicans suffering for like almost 30 years. So it is not an easy, I'm just saying that to say it is not an easy choice.
Yeah, I take your point, because I know the entire happenings in the 70s with the CIA, with Michael Manley, all right? And when I know the whole thing because I've read it. I looked at the YouTube. That YouTube video with those CIA agents was, I think I watched that video some 3 or 4 years ago. It's not a new video. I don't think it was out last year. It was out some time ago. But I know the entire thing. But my thing is, when are we as African people, I know that we do not have the might, either militarily or economically, to fight the United States. Okay, we know that, and we know the ramifications, and we know what can happen. The sanctions and the fallout to the European Union and all those other countries that is aligned to the West. Okay, we know that. But I am saying now, in light of what took place in 1983, okay, I am expecting the Prime Minister to come out and say, listen, I don't expect him to come out stridently and say, beat his chest and say no. But I expect that he can give an explanation as to why he cannot make that decision right now. Because the people, based on what I'm seeing, I've looked at other YouTubers, based on what I'm seeing, most of the population in Grenada does not want this. So I think he has his base. He has his base in the country to look about. I remember he's a politician, right? So we know the fallout, okay? And we have to take a stand, and it's the same thing I have with my country. And I'm not saying we should go up there and pick a fight, and we know that we don't have the means to fight it, but we cannot capitulate. We have to state our position and stand our ground. I don't expect it to be beat the chest that, but just say no. And what is going on in Venezuela, we know that this is not about drugs, because if you listen to this American senator Rand Paul, right, he's saying that, listen, for those boats to get to the United States from Venezuela, it's 2,000 nautical miles. It will take them those speedboats to stop and refill 20 times before they can get to the shores of the United States. Okay? And secondly, if you're fighting drugs, why the summary execution? Why not capture these people, right? Display the drugs that you have found, okay? And if it's so, put them before the courts and prosecute them. Why just kill it? I hear the president last night of the United States talking about he's gonna kill. I'm saying no, we cannot capitulate. We are a small country in the Caribbean. We don't have any military to fight these people, but we can stand our grounds, because the back of apartheid wasn't broken based on bullets and bombs. It was people who protest. Our music, reggae music, is what broke the back of the apartheid. A lot of people don't know, because I study these things, right? Did you know that Jamaica was the first country in the Western Hemisphere, and second behind India, to cut diplomatic ties with apartheid South Africa. Did you know that?
Yeah, and that's why
In 1955, under Premier Norman Manley.
yeah,
So you see, and at that time, remember now, in the 80s, and I know you know because I've listened to you, right? In the 80s, President Reagan, Margaret Thatcher support the apartheid regime in South Africa with the hilt. Israel even helped the South African to get nuclear weapons.
yeah,
Okay? And when Nelson Mandela came to the States in the 1990s when he just left prison, that famous seminar that was put on at New York, he said that, listen, Muammar Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat support the apartheid struggle to the hilt. And the person said, listen, one of the person in the audience said to him, listen, why you speak like this? Are you not afraid that they're going to lift this sanction on the apartheid government and allow the apartheid system to continue? And Mr. Mandela looked at the host and said, listen, any person who is vying to become a president that weighs his mind depending on who he's speaking to, that person is not fit to lead a country. I don't know you know the interview.
yeah. The
Okay.
thing is though, like, I believe that no is the right answer. I believe that that is what, and if that's why I said a referendum. If there's a way to have a referendum in a short space of time, I think a referendum is the right way to go. And the reason why I say that is that, look, the people, there's no blame to go around. If the people vote for no and the prime minister say no and there's some type of sanction, that's why I believe that the opposition party should not play politics with this one. Everybody in Grenada should stand together and think, because because as I said, like, I remember as Jamaica, because Jamaicans suffer because of the decision, and even amongst our Caribbean brothers and sisters, when you're traveling in the 90s, the early 90s up to the early 2000s as a Jamaican, anywhere in the Caribbean or anywhere in the world you go, you are pulled aside and you're digged down, and every Jamaican is a criminal because of what happened in the 1980s, and that was caused by the American government. And even sometimes as Jamaicans, like I see Jamaicans treat the people of Haiti in a similar manner, and I'm like, don't you remember what happened to you? Or can you treat your brothers and sisters in Haiti like they're criminals, you know? So but hopefully, as I said, the right answer is.
But listen, what I'm saying, when you take sides, when you're standing for what is just or what is right, it is going to come with consequences. Okay.
Yeah.
So and in this global environment, in this geopolitical atmosphere, right? You cannot be a neutral bystander, because if you be a neutral bystander, it's still taken aside.
Yeah.
Right. And you're still going to be looked at as taken aside, because in the famous Bishop Desmond Tutu, okay, says, if you see an injustice taking place and you say nothing, that means you're taking the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
So if you're quiet and see something bad happening and you do not have a voice, evidently you're taking the side of the aggressor.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, if it is that, because Trump didn't hide it, he didn't hide saying that, because I listened a clipping from him just before he demitted office in 2020. He says that, and when he was on the verge of leaving the White House in 2020, Venezuela, had he won back, Venezuela would have been totally decapitated.
Yeah, and they're going and take the oil.
Exactly, and take the oil.
Yeah.
And we know that Venezuela have the rich. And listen, whether you want to like Maduro or not, and we must call a spade a spade. Venezuela has been good to its Caribbean neighbors.
The thing is, that's
we
why
in Jamaica benefit from the Petro-Carib deal.
that's why look,
Okay.
that's why one of the thing
Right.
why when I'm having these conversations, I like to bring history in the middle of it, right? Because what I realize since I'm going around the Caribbean is that most of us in the Caribbean, we're in a bubble, and we understand a little bit of our own history, like the history in Trinidad and Tobago, history in Barbados, but we don't know Caribbean politics Caribbean history because it wasn't taught to us, right? So you have to go and search on your own to go find history that is in the Caribbean. So most people that's a part of this argument now, saying that Venezuela this, Venezuela that. I have to tell people that the first black millionaire, Jamaica black millionaire, the same Devanos guy, he went to Venezuela and made his money. Like I met a lot of Trinidadians that their grandparents, whether grandmother, grandfather, they went to Venezuela because after the abolition of slavery, way before, because Caribbean nationals just started going to America in I think the late 40s, early 50s. We saw people were leaving Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados from 19. The earliest record that I've seen is 1905 with Jamaicans, Trinidadians, Bajans going to Venezuela, going to Cuba to work because those countries they were booming at the time. Not up until 2013. Do you know that 2013 Venezuelans were recorded as the happiest people in Latin America?
No, I didn't know that.
2013, it's documented. You can find all those stuff online.
That is under Hugo Chavez, right?
Under Hugo Chavez. And Venezuela, the immigration crisis with Trinidad did not start until 2015 when Obama decided to start sanctioning Venezuela. You know, the Petro-Caribbean program was a big program in the Caribbean. Venezuela, when I was a child.
I don't want to interject you.
Yeah.
The sanctioning of Venezuela started from under Bush Sr., George Bush Sr.
Yeah, but Obama tightened the screw. That was the screw. That was the screw that led to.
Obama it started from the previous from Bush to.
That was
from that administration.
That was what led to a lot of illegal immigrants from Venezuela going to Trinidad and Tobago. That wasn't there before. You didn't find a lot of Venezuelans going to Trinidad and Tobago before. And then Obama tightened the screw. And then when Trump came in his first administration, then he started tightening it even more. So Venezuela had a rich history with like Venezuela, because people don't understand the Haiti revolution is linked with Latin America. Haiti was one of the after their revolution, they helped to free Venezuela, they helped to free Argentina, helped to free Cuba. So that revolution was there. And they have a close relationship with the Caribbean. So for people that, especially people in Trinidad and Tobago, that are advocating for a war with Venezuela, don't have any idea what they're talking about, because a war with Venezuela is not good. Like, I can be like a selfish Jamaican and say, you know what, Jamaica is on the other side of the Caribbean. When a bomb drop in Venezuela, we're not going to hear about it. A bomb drop in Venezuela, Trinidad is going to shake.
It's going to hear.
It's going to shake.
11 miles.
It's not far. It's not far.
In between the two countries.
You can stay at that point in Trinidad. I don't remember what they call it. It's a popular lookout point. You can stay there and look and see Venezuela. And
the Trinidadian Prime Minister though, that lady is a right wing lady, you know, and she's a Trump supporter too. And I remember when we were divesting Air Jamaica in Jamaica, and the government at the time, the golden administrator at the time, asked her for assistance, you know, to help divest Air Jamaica. And she turned around and said, well, Trinidad is not the ATM of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's her
And-
favorite. That's her
and-
favorite word. She like to use that. She use it with Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. She use it with Barbados. Yeah.
And- Right, and I see even now, because you know that they can't really process oil now, and I see even last year it was last
Yeah,
year,
last year when they
September
send
We
oil to
even
Jamaica to
start
process. Yeah.
yeah, we even start process Trinidad. And you saw it come around now. You saw it come around now, and I don't know as a why she's and see it come right at her doorstep, and I hear what a funeral service with the two Fisher folks that were that died. They keep a funeral without the body,
Mm-hmm.
and one of his family members was saying that even if it's trafficking drugs, you don't do that. And the prime minister of the country, she doesn't come out and say anything. She don't offer any form of sympathy or empathy to the family that two of her citizens was executed like this. No sympathy. I said that lady is a very cold individual, and she's but saying this though, I want to ask her two questions before I go. I don't see if a war should break out. I don't see Venezuela attacking Trinidad though. I don't see them attacking Trinidad.
But the vice president said it.
Yeah, I don't think that is merely rhetoric. I don't see them doing that. I don't, because
Are you
they're going to kill innocent. And most of the Trinidadian people, I think, even though I heard that it's split, most of them doesn't want this type of animosity between them and the Venezuelans.
Look,
Go ahead.
I believe that if they attack Venezuela, I believe that Trinidad is more at risk than Guyana to be attacked. I honestly believe that they would attack Trinidad and
They're
Tobago.
not going to attack. I think the Essequibo region, I think Dr. Irfan Ali, and if anybody that was supposed to be hostile to the Venezuelans, it should be the Guyanese people.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dr. Irfan Ali here said, listen, we want peace in the region.
Yeah, you said that, yeah.
Right, we want peace in the region. We do not want any war. So I don't know why the Trinidadian Prime Minister take this position. And it's only a pity that the election has just concluded in Trinidad, because I don't think she's going to survive a full term if this war actually breaks out.
Yeah, but
because she's going to be isolated in the Caribbean, right? And her position is anti-unity. And I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of the Trinidadian people, because there's a divide there with the Hindu and the blacks. I don't want to get into that. But one last question I want to ask you before I go. Do you think if a war breaks out, do you see the Chinese and the Russians getting involved?
I think
And the Venezuelans?
I think it's a possibility. I think a war between US and Venezuela, I think it's more likely the Chinese would get involved and the Russian would get involved, as opposed to get involved with any other war that we see so far, the Ukraine war or what is going on in Palestine. Because what people don't understand, Venezuela have the biggest oil reserve in the entire world, right?
More than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, more than Saudi Arabia. And we see what the Middle East is able to do with their oil money. That is what Venezuela should be able to do with their oil, if not sanctioned and like cut off by the American and the Europeans, right? So China, based on information that I got, China have something like $60 billion or close to $1 trillion worth of new investment in oil.
Yes, I heard about it.
In oil,
Venezuela,
in
right?
Venezuela oil. And even I know people are saying that well, everybody know that this is not a war on drugs, and America don't care about drugs and human trafficking in the Caribbean. So for the people in Trinidad who think that they are the only people that think that, nobody think that America is interested in taking care of the problems of the Caribbean. We have been a drug transshipment route from the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And, Mia Martley, Ralph Gonzalez, successive Caribbean leaders, Irfan Ali, have been asking for help from the American government to help us with the human trafficking and guns and illegal drugs. And we didn't get any help. So this is not about that. And but what people are saying, what people are saying is that because you know that the Brazilian the road that they're building from Brazil to Venezuela to Guyana, right? You know that they're building a highway.
No, I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
so they're building a highway from Brazil to Guyana, and it's a highway that connect the BRICS nation, to make it easier for like import export to this side of the world. And China is heavily involved in that. And China is heavily involved in
But China, but I don't. What people are saying, I don't see that. Even though China have a lot of interest in Venezuela, I don't see them getting involved directly.
But
because
it's a
China
chess. It's a chess game they're
not
playing. It's a chess game they're playing. You know, because
And I think to the reason, I think, let me tell you something, what I suspected, right? There was supposed to be a summit between the Russian president and the man in the White House there, right? And I think that summit was probably called, right?
Mhm.
They are saying that, I know they want to have a peace talk between the Russians and the Ukrainians, right? But I think the main reason why that summit was called is to tell Putin that they have intention to invade Venezuela and they do not want any intervention by the Russians. I think that was part of the meeting too. And I think that probably the Russians declined. And I see just today he is traveling now to Asia and is going to meet the Chinese president Xi Jinping. And I think that also is going to be part of the messaging. So listen, we are about to do this. We have interest there, and we want to keep out. I think that is a part of the strategy.
yeah, and
Right?
that's why I think
Because-
that's why I think they would get
Go ahead.
that's why I think they would get involved, because when you see like in Burkina Faso, right, Ibrahim Traore, like he is selling out, not really selling out, but giving China financial ties in the country. And from what is reported, that it's like a double whatever you call it, it's a way to protect them, because nobody's going to attack them, their assets,
And
if China own it.
When African people when you do business with China, okay? China, yes, they're in it to benefit themselves too. We're not saying that, but at least they're not coming into the country, dictating to you which government you should have.
Yeah, no.
Or when you have a vote at the United Nations, you must vote a certain type of way. They're not coming in with those type of conditions. They're not telling you that, listen, you need to relax that laws, you need to do this. You're free to do what you want to do. Yes, the loan comes with some form of conditionality, but at the same time, they do not come and dictate to you. So it's easy for us to do business with them, right? Look at it now, because the Americans are doing nothing for the Caribbean, and we face a similar thing under the Trump administration, where we was going to get the 5G from China. And the American, I remember Clint Hughes was interviewing the American ambassador at the time.
Yeah, I remember that interview.
If we want to be friends with the Chinese, what business is that of America? America is not doing anything for us. But I'm just saying, why this imperialistic agenda when about the Americans right now? And I don't want to use the program, but the Americans and the West and the settler colonial states, so-called states, that is, committing a genocide against the indigenous people of this world, of the indigenous people of Palestine. They are just, it's like a mafia business. It's like no rule of law, because that man should never get any platform at the United Nations.
Yeah, no.
He cannot travel to 125 countries. And this is where I disagree with our government. They should have walked out because that is not diplomacy.
Yeah.
You cannot stand up in front of somebody who is wanted by the International Criminal Court, otherwise known as the International Caucasian Court, right? Because he's not supposed to. He was an African leader. Look, the president of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, from the Palestinian Authority, he wasn't granted any visa.
Yeah.
And yes, he wasn't wanted for no war crime.
Mm-hmm.
Trump didn't give him any visa. So the world, as I said to you before, we cannot fight these people. But we have to stand on our 2 feet. And as Michael Malley said,
Yeah.
not on our knees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I land right there. So,
All right.
yeah, again. All right.
All right,
Nice
respect for the
discussion.
time.
I
Yeah.
just do this somewhere.
All right. Thanks.
I'm going to reveal myself to you one of the days. And I'm a regular comment person on your channel.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to touch base with you.
Okay. Good.
All right.
All
Respect,
right,
man. Take
yeah.
it easy. Good.
Loomed large here on Sunday, October 19, 2025, as the faithful paid tribute to fallen soldiers and an assassinated revolutionary leader who once famously declared that Grenada is not in anyone's backyard.
They like to talk a lot about backyard and front yard and lake. Grenada ain't nobody backyard and in part of nobody lake.
We live for certain causes. And I can't even tell you where that saying comes from, but I have always believed since I was a teenager that if you do not have any reason to die, you have no reason to live.
It was more poignant in the wake of the U.S. request to St. George's to have installed military assets on an airport now named in honor of Maurice Bishop in an apparent effort to aid Washington's war effort against Venezuela.
We don't want any military assets on our soil.
Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell told this reporter at an official function Monday night. He will speak on the issue before the end of the week.
I will address the nation at the relevant time before the end of the week. On the matter. Before the end of the week. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Invoking the spirit of Bishop and the other Grenadian matters on Sunday, it was clear where the sentiment lay. Outspoken on the issue is Catholic priest Father Jared Paul.
So old people say, when your neighbor house is on fire, you wet yours. The way to wet Grenada house is to say no. And no is no. End of talk.
Independent MP Peter David said the very dignity of Grenada is at stake.
There's going to be repercussions if you take this decision or that decision. That is why we must take the decision where we stand with our dignity. We must come out of this with our heads high.
Dr. Terence Marasho of the Matters Foundation said the issues on the table are not only about Washington's assets request, but also reports that the Trump administration was also seeking to pressure Grenada to accept deportees from third countries it is seeking to expel. On the table, based on various reports, is the offer, among other things, to build a new prison for Grenada.
We say no to refugees coming into our country who are non-Grenadians. We don't want people that we don't know anything about. We're struggling, as we said, with our own housing problems. And we are not accepting refugees just because the empire says so, skilled or unskilled. If we decide we want refugees, we will say we want refugees, but nobody is imposing refugees on Grenada. We're not accepting them like that.
Legal Affairs Minister Claudette Joseph confirmed the United States had raised the deportee issue again, but referred to the government's earlier position on the matter.
We did receive earlier in the year, I think sometime in January, a request to house third party or third country refugees or nationals, third country nationals. And we did indicate then to the United States that we will be willing to accept Grenadians who they wish to deport out of the United States, but not third country nationals. The request has since been renewed, and we have not responded because we have not officially changed our position. But they have again made the request as far as I know, but we have not given an answer.
Do we have to give an answer?
Well, as nations deal with each other, diplomatically and properly, if a nation speaks to you, it's only proper that you speak back and you indicate, you communicate.
Reliable sources close to the Dick and Mitchell administration said the current Grenadian leader is leaning towards turning down the U.S. request regarding the radar installation. The Grenada Coalition for a Zone of Peace has called a public march for Thursday, October 23, which starts right here from 4 p.m. and goes westward along that route into the city center. The coalition has also announced the organization of 2 candlelight vigils at Point Lanes and Pearls on Saturday, October 25, 2025. From outside government headquarters, Tantine St. George's, I am Callistra Farrier for Primetime Caribbean, Carib Update News Service.
Okay, guys. So yes, so this was a good conversation, and in wrapping up, you know, I'm going to go back to how I started out, and with the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, when he said that, look, whatever the Prime Minister, Dickon Mitchell, whatever his decision is, that we in the Caribbean should support him. I know we patiently await for Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon to see what the Prime Minister is going to say. And the Prime Minister stated that, look, the people, he will take the people's, what the people are saying in consideration. It's not an easy decision. It is not an easy decision. I know, like, there are a lot of people that are revolutionary and they're willing to deal with whatever consequences, you know, and it's one thing for, you know, someone in your 50s or 60s to be revolutionary and said you're ready to fight to the end. But we have to consider, you know, the young kids in school, the 6-year-old, the 10-year-old that have their whole life ahead of them, and what a possible sanction on a small island nation and crippling your economy. We know that the same nursing medical school that the President Reagan at the time used as an excuse to invade Grenada, saying that, you know, there are American students there and over 1,000 Americans and they were at risk. You know, they could use a similar excuse to do whatever they want in 2025. So, you know, I continue to say it is not easy. I would not want to be in the Prime Minister's shoes. I know in the Caribbean sometimes we have a love-hate relationship with our Prime Ministers, and we like to call them corrupt and all for themselves and stuff like that. But I think it is time that we hold the forces from outside accountable, that, you know, come in and, you know, we are knowing our history. This is not like in the 50s or the 60s. Now we have social media. We can see what is going on in real time. It's not like back in the days when they took our bauxite, they took our sugar cane, they took our bananas, and, you know, they give you penny on the dollars, and the people in the Caribbean stay and suffer while all the money goes to European countries. You see France is struggling to survive now because they're being cut off from all their African colonies. These countries are standing up and saying no to our diamonds, no to our gold, no to our cocoa. And now we see France in trillions of dollars of debt, and they're struggling to stay alive. So yeah, as I said, Tuesday, we'll wait and see what the Prime Minister have to say, but I will just end by saying whatever decision the Prime Minister make, Dickon Mitchell is not the enemy. It's a tough decision to make. And as I said earlier, I hope and pray that the opposition party would not use this as political leverage to try and get a one-up on the Prime Minister. No politics should be involved in this thing that is happening in Grenada now. if the opposition attempt to do that, that will be very, very distasteful. That would be like pretty much stepping on the necks of your people in Grenada that you were put there to serve. This should not be politicized. This should not be something for the opposition. Every single Grenadian should come together, whether you disagree with whatever decision should make, whether you say like put it there or don't put it there. Everyone should come together and make sure that whatever decision is made, that the people of Grenada don't suffer for that. So I'm just going to leave it right there. So guys, thank you for coming in and participating in the chat. I see the chat was very festive. So just don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed. Subscribe, and we could have another live on this next week Saturday, depending on what the decision is and how this story continues to evolve. So I'll just leave it right there. So guys, thank you for watching and have a wonderful night. Take care.